Thank you for joining. If you are in this meeting, we assume that you know the basics of Connect. And today we will try to explain you and show you how localization management module works in Connect. It will mostly be a live demo. We have a few slides to maybe support the Q&A, of course, but mostly it will be a live demo. In this demo, we will create a new product, create a few different localizations. First, I will show you the interdependencies between those different localization objects in Connect itself. And then Marc will help me with the demo part within CloudBlue Commerce environment. So think about questions that you might want to ask. We will be monitoring chat. I guess that's the easiest way to ask questions. And well, feel free to raise hand using Zoom capabilities. And once we will see that, we will allow you to ask that question. All right, so localization and customization, because those two topics are very much related. Without further ado, we will start in the developer account of Connect. So I'm currently in Connect portal, and this is vendor account, as you can see. So we will start by creating a new product. Doesn't really matter how we will call it. So let's click create new product, right? Again, we're vendors, we're creating a new product. Let's do that, and let's give this product a name, say whatever, Connect and share. I mean, knowledge. And as you probably noticed, if you recently worked with Connect environment, as you are creating a new product, you also now need to define a primary locale. This is the language in which all of the primary strings and content in general within the product is being defined, right? So we will do the obvious thing. Forgive me. We will do the obvious thing. Let's use English to start with, and let's create our product. So as we created our product, another thing that we all probably need to learn paying attention to is the locale switcher. Right? So as we are working with this environment, now at the top right corner of the product details view, we have a locale switcher. We just created this product, right? So kind of it only has the primary locale. That's why this switcher currently is very obvious, right? It's only English, and this is our primary locale. Well, let's just for the sake of working with this demo, let's assign some icon to this product so we can distinguish it from others in case we need it, right? Some random nice looking picture. And let's start by looking at the localization objects themselves, right? So in the product attributes, as we're working with this left panel here, we have localization management section. And when we go to this section, we will see the list of locales defined in here. Like I said, we only have one locale right now, quite obviously. Let's look at the details of that locale, right? I will click at this object here, and let's see what we've got here. Well, quite obviously, this translation object essentially has a lot of attributes. And each of those attributes has a unique identifier and a value associated with them, right? So like, for example, we have some product action here with a unique identifier of ACT something, and it has corresponding values of sign into the service by clicking on this button. We can also locate the string in the user interface of product editing, which we will do in a few seconds. But all in all, by looking at this object, we can see all the attributes that this product consists of. We can also go to this top right menu and export this whole translation object to a file that could be downloaded, right? We can click at this export button just for the sake of learning. Let's do that. This downloads a translation file, and by downloading it to our machine, we can open it up and we can see that this downloads an Excel file with a few different tabs here, which define some general attributes, like what is the identifier of this translation, which account it belongs to, and all those other things, and as well as a separate section with all those attributes that we were looking at, right? So we can download it to Excel file, work with it separately, and then using the same file format, modify different locales if we want to. Even though in many cases it will not be needed, because a lot of translation activities in Connect are done automatically, as we will show you in a minute. So all in all, let's go back to the product itself. Let's go to our Connect and Share product. Let's go to the localization management section, and let's create a couple of additional locales. So obviously our primary locale is English. Let's create, again, for the sake of argument, let's create one German locale. And as we're creating locale, we need to define the language of that locale. Quite obviously, in our example, in my example, I just used German. We can optionally define some description to this locale. Again, I will just use some randomly generated strings here. And importantly, there is a checkbox which allows you to just delegate automatic translation to the platform. So instead of populating all those strings in that language yourself, you can just rely on the platform to do it for you. And that's exactly what we're going to do for this German locale. And again, for the sake of argument, let's create another locale that will be Spanish. So let's use Spanish. Again, let's populate description with some random generated strings. And for the Spanish language, I will also specify this checkbox so that platform can handle translation for us automatically. So we've just created two additional locales, and let's look at those attributes here, right? We have primary locale, which is English, and we have two locales that we've created additionally, German and Spanish ones. Obviously, primary locale has to be populated manually, as we are working with the portal or APIs of the platform. That's why there is no auto translation for that locale. But all additional locales, they have auto translations enabled. And they also have a special status, which is currently inactive, which I will explain to you in a minute. We can also see the progress of translation for those locales. Right? If we refresh, we will see that those German and Spanish translations have already been populated. Now, if we look at them right now, and we click at, for example, this Germany translation, we will see that those things that existed in the English locale, they are already populated in here. And again, it's a reasonably good translation, which you might want to adjust, but kind of for the first entry, kind of this automatic translation should work reasonably well. Now, let me show you how this would work in real time, right? So let's go to our product management, and let's go back to our product, and let's first edit something obvious, like, I don't know, those activation links that were at the top, right? So this is the actual object that one of the attributes that could be localized in the product, action links. And let's change this description to something different. I don't know, I have a list of catchy phrases on a separate display. Let's use this one. Let's call it meet new people and whatever. Make connections count as a description. So let's save this. And well, we can obviously go to the translation management to see those things updated. Or we can just use this product editor with the locale switcher located at the top right to switch between locales. The way our platform works, it detects strings that change in the product and automatically initiates the translation. It might take a few seconds. I mean, if some services are not working, maybe even minutes. But most likely, again, as I was talking, if we switch to a different locale, now as I switch to German, you can see that this string first has already been updated. It communicated over the API with our translation services, and new strings have already been populated here. So this is in German, and this is already in Spanish. Unfortunately, I'm not fluent in Spanish, so I cannot assess the quality of the translation, but I hope it's good enough. Marc tells me that it's kind of all right? Now, we can do something more complex than that, because obviously activation link is a little bit simplistic. There is another attribute or another object that is very interesting to look at. That is called activation template, right? So for example, those are the templates that are being used for subscription tiles in commerce systems once subscription has been activated, as an example. Right. So let's just modify this template with something. Again, I have just some set of random stories on the left in English. Let me select one of them. And let's just populate it with a story, right? It's the story of some chicken family or something. I don't remember. Right? Again, some more complicated string with a lot of text in here, which we can save. And but it works exactly the same way. What's important here, right? As we're looking at this template, we can switch between different versions of translations right here. We can go to the localization object and see those things there, but let's use this user interface, right? And as you can see, the whole story has been translated as well already. And kind of you can see that whatever you are doing in the primary language, it always automatically gets translated to those locales that you have additionally in the platform. And obviously, you can customize those translations if you want to. The idea here is that we don't want to force you to use automatic translation, but we really want to simplify this first step, right? You always start with something with reasonably populated values, and then if you want, you can customize, you can export them like I showed you to the Excel file and work with them. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Now, let me spend a few minutes talking about statuses of those localization files, translation files. As you probably noticed, those additional locales that we've created, they are currently in the inactive status. What it means is that those locales are not visible to any partners of this vendor. And only by making those translations active will those objects be visible to partners of this vendor. We've just recently created this product in the beginning of this demo, which means that this product has never been listed with any distributor. So let's do exactly that, right? Let's go to the versions management first. Let's create some first version of this product, which will be visible to the distributor. And let's go to the listing management. just for a second and create a listing of this product to the catalog of the distributor. Right, so we'll go to listing management. We will find our product, which is connect and share. We will select that. We will list it to the catalog of my test account that is called Connect Demos. We will select that, and we will list it to the United States marketplace of that test distributor account. Again, we didn't populate any of the price list or additional attributes. We will just click through that, and we will click submit. This created a listing of this product to the distributor account and made visible that product in the context of the distributor. So again, before we switch to the distributor account, let's look one more time at this product in the context of the vendor. And let me just remind you that in the context of this vendor, we currently see three translations: English, which is primary, German and Spanish. But only English is marked as active, and German and Spanish are marked as inactive. Now, let's switch to the distributor account and compare what we see in that context with what we see in here. Right? Let's filter catalog of that distributor. So now I am located in the distributor account, and we are looking at the platform through the eyes of this Connect Demos distributor. This distributor obviously already has this product in the catalog because the listing has been created and it's currently under review. And distributor can look at the details of this product as well. When we look at the localization management section of this distributor, we can only see one locale, right? Because only English has been marked as active. This allows vendor to work with those other locales, maybe complete the review of the quality of those translations, etc., and essentially allows them to work independently. But when vendor feels that they are ready to share this particular translation with their partners, it's very easy to do. Right? Vendor. Let's switch back to the vendor for a second. Let's go to this localization management, and let's make German translation visible to partners. That's pretty easy. We will just click this activate button at this object. We can do it from the object details, or we can do it from the list. Let's click activate. And now we have both English and German translations marked as active. So let's switch for a second to the distributor account and see that it's really so that distributor can now see two translations as well. Excuse me. So, well, just as we expected, we can now see that when looking at this product through the eyes of the distributor, Connect Demos, this distributor can now see two translations. And this allows them, again, to work efficiently, and vendors can complete their translation cycles independently from their partners. This also calls for the explanation of a very related topic, which is not necessarily a translation or localization, but customization of those strings by distributors. Because we always trust our vendors, of course, but in many cases, those translations that are provided by vendors are not perfect, right? And it might happen that a particular distributor will want to customize certain texts in a particular locale to be shown to their customers for multiple reasons. To add references to their own product, to maybe remove references to certain terms, whatever. And it's not always possible to ask vendors to customize that, because sometimes requirements of our partners are different, right? And one partner might ask vendor to customize one thing, while another vendor will ask them to customize another thing. So in our example, essentially, let's imagine that this distributor actually wants to customize strings in English, as an example. And our platform actually allows for that quite easily. And distributor can simply clone localization file in their context and create their own, which they will be customizing. Right, so I just click clone, as you probably saw. Again, maybe not. So essentially, we can clone the translation file, or we can create a new one from here. Just cloning is just faster. And in this case, distributor account has created their own localization record, which they own, which is not, which does not belong to the vendor account, which is important. It belongs to the distributor account. And now distributor can actually perform their own localization themselves. This localization file will not be visible to vendors. Let me just for a second switch back to our vendor account. And our vendor does not see that translation file, right? So that translation file belongs exclusively to the distributor. And this allows distributors to perform customization of strings or localization of strings independently from the context of the vendor. Again, let me just reiterate what we just saw. We've created a product, right? We discussed what the primary locale is and why it's needed. We looked at the technical details of this translation file and attributes that get assigned to it. We used different ways of looking at those products. We looked at the localization objects separately, and we looked at the product editor and switched between different locales. Then we performed auto translation of strings to 2 different languages in real time, then made those translations visible to the distributor account, and we listed the product. And we also created a customization, a locale in the language that already existed for this product, but not in the context of the vendor, but the context of the distributor. Okay, I hope it all makes sense. And now let me pass the screen to Marc, and Marc will show how all those translation attributes and objects translate to the implementation in one particular commerce system, which is our own CloudBlue Commerce, and API calls that are happening there for your reference. Marc, to you, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Max. Okay, I will try to put you first of all in context. In order to simplify my explanations, I already have this product, and I'm looking at this product in the context or in the scope of the given vendor. As we know, this vendor can localize the product in multiple languages. And concretely, he has English and Russian using our new localization module. And for the sake of doing this demonstration more clearly, since we will be doing it in the scope of CloudBlue Commerce, I did not translate it at all, the APS section. My goal on this, it's to show you the new capabilities that we have, for example, in the real-time translation of the activation tiles. Okay, then as mentioned, I have this product that at this moment in time has these 2 locales. At the same time, I have created using CloudBlue Commerce 1 subscription in the scope of 1 concrete distributor. And we will be working with that, it's not this one, just a second, demo. It's this one, which has the product. And for this one, we already created a concrete subscription that we will be using. Okay, currently, if somebody will be seeing the activation tiles on CloudBlue Commerce, we say that it's available in English and Russian, in fact, it's auto-translated. And for that, I will switch CloudBlue Commerce to Russian. Okay, I'm searching the given subscription. and accessing the customer control panel, what I will be able to see is, since I did not translate the APS part, some sections will appear in English, something that will allow you to see what is these new capabilities. But if I access to the exact subscription, we can see that the activation tile, it's already in Russian. What I'm meaning is that really this tile, it's retrieved from Connect based on the locale of the user who has logged into the panel. This means that if I will log out and, for example, access in English, this activation tile will appear in English. With these new capabilities that we have, it's also possible that this distributor who is using CloudBlue Commerce does either a customization or adds a new locale. As we saw, this product, it was localized in just English and Russian. And maybe this distributor introduced few more languages like Iceland and Swedish. Let's imagine that now he wants to introduce Spanish. Okay, he creates the translation. It gets auto-translated, and let's activate this one. Okie dokie. Now that we have Spanish in the scope of the product for the given distributor, let's see what happens in CloudBlue Commerce. I will switch to Spanish, and I will search exactly from the same subscription that we saw before that the activation tile was in Russian. Now we have everything in Spanish in CloudBlue Commerce. And if I access to the given subscription, and I go to the customer control panel, now we have the activation tile in Spanish without re-importing the package or doing any other activity. That also will work in the use case, as Max explained it before, that we go into the locale and we do a customization on the text. Then it will be obtained dynamically, depending on the user locale. Of course, this real-time translation that it's being done from our extension to CloudBlue Commerce, it's using our APIs. These APIs are documented in our OpenAPI specification in the localization section. And basically, you can go over the different APIs and make it quite complex, especially in the scope of commerce, because we have multiple users which may be seeing exactly the same object, but in different languages. What it must be done from API perspective? First, let me try to explain the long route. And for this long route, I will be using my favorite REST client. Let's imagine that based on a given request that I obtained over the API, I can see that it has, as before, the activation key. This one includes the content in the default language, as before. Additionally, since release 26, we also can see that it has linkage to the exact template used in order to approve that given request. Using this data, we can also use another API endpoint, for example, to list all the translations for the given product that was related with the request. And we can search here the different translations. Of course, we must remember that, as Max explained, that for the same locale, it may exist multiple translations with different owners. It means that I will need, in the scope of my integration with a commerce system, understand which one to use. Then, based on that, I can go to the translation to get all the translation attributes. Okay, and for example, for the given product, we need to get exactly the concrete body for a given activation template. As you can see, just using these unique identifiers, I can do it. The template ID and getting the attribute body. Now I can see, for example, based on what I was explaining before, the template in Russian, but with all the different parameters not substituted. Then I will need to understand what is the title as well as the value for such ones. And well, going over API, I can also do exactly the same for getting this product, the title for the concrete parameter, and being able to start replacing. As you can see, this integration with the commerce system may be extremely complex. Anyway, Connect also offers for assets as well as requests a way more simple mechanism in order to translate these activation tiles in an easy manner. How to do so? We have in the endpoint, which is used in order to retrieve requests that most of you already know, request with the request ID, we have a new action, which is render. This render action allows us to pass over headers the language that I want to get the activation tile. That means that the commerce system may ask directly, for example, to get this tile in Russian, or I don't know, in Spanish. And here we are, or in English, based on the different languages that we have. But there is something interesting on that, which is that it has already failover mechanisms. This means that, for example, if I ask for Chinese, which does not exist, it will be returning to me the default locale. Additionally, that was relative to what is the request. We can do it also on the asset, as we can see here. But these templates, by using exactly this endpoint, will follow the life cycle of the template. It means that for a request, asking directly for this, we will be able to get the right template based on the status of the request. This means that if it's inquiry, the rendering function will return us the inquiring template localized in the right language. If it's approved, exactly the same, and so on and so forth. That also happens for the asset endpoint. But for the asset endpoint, gets a little bit more complex because it also gets changed depending on the status of the request. This means that in the use case that it's a purchase request, the asset follows the life cycle of such a purchase request. But when it's a change request or others, the request has one activation tile, while the asset has a different one, depending on which status it's the request. It will not be till the request is approved that it does not get propagated to the asset. Hope that was clear. Max, returning to you.
Thank you, Marc. Well, that concludes at least the demo part and explanation part that we wanted to cover today regarding localization and customization in different contexts. So thank you for joining, guys, and probably with this we can transition to the Q&A section if you have any.